Well, good evening, everybody. This is your host, Huge Pop, the Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. Tonight, Huge Pop gets knocks out with Nick Vick up here in the corner up here. Our guest tonight is all the way from Costa Rica. He's a professional wrestler. He's a movie star, a TV star in commercials. He's been a bodyguard for Ace Frehley of Kiss. Please welcome the reinforcer Andrew Anderson to the HPWP. How you doing, my friend?
What's going on, guys? How are you, man?
Good.
Really
I'm
good,
excited
really
about
good.
this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, me and Nick Vic had a lot of conversations over the years, but really never got to finally hang out. This is the kind of long distance way for us to hang out and see each other, pal. You know?
Well, now that you're in Costa Rica, I'll be hopping on my plane and visiting you there. I'll tell you that
Yeah,
much.
I got right here, right next to me, my fiance slash manager slash valet slash business partner and everything I do in life and everything. The lovely Miss Karen.
Hi, Miss Karen.
Hi.
Yes.
How you doing tonight? It's awesome to see that you guys are working together because
Yes.
my wife and I we run an emergency shelter for foster kids here in the
Oh,
Panhandle
wow.
of Florida. So I love the same thing that your husband just or your fiance just said. I love working with her side by side. I wouldn't do it.
Oh,
I wouldn't have it any other way.
awesome. So good to hear.
Yeah, nice meeting you, ma'am.
Nice meeting you.
I met
Yeah,
I met
she's
this young lady at the Legends lunch. She's a sweetheart.
met her at the Legends lunch,
Yeah.
and I got news for you that she did some training sessions we had in July and August, I think, right? July and August, right?
Yeah.
She started training, and actually, Jay Lethal got her diving off the top rope with high cross bodies.
Wow.
Yeah, so kudos to Jay Lethal, who's not only is a
Absolutely.
phenomenal wrestler for AEW and
Yeah.
Ring of Honor all these years, but he's also probably one of the best trainers out there. A lot of people don't realize that.
He's very talented. Very talented.
So I know you're a professional wrestler and a musician or an actor and all this stuff. But as a kid growing up, did you watch wrestling? And if so, what was the big names that you watched and what did you watch?
Well, as a kid, you remember we used to always get the wrestling magazines.
Yeah.
Well, the wrestling magazines. I went to Catholic school my whole life, and I grew up in New Jersey, so I'd be walking back from school, and they'd always have bundled in twine all recycled newspapers and stuff like that. And you're talking about 1977, 78, 76, 77. And I just remember seeing on the magazine The Wrestler, but what caught my eye on it, and I still have this magazine somewhere, I might say somewhere because it's somewhere, was Superstar Billy Graham's bloody face with Bruno Sammartino, or no, it was Superstar Billy Graham. Bruno Sammartino choking him, and it was, to me, it was the most amazing thing I've ever fucking seen in my life. And the gore in that magazine was just so tremendous. Everybody was bloody. Everybody in the feuds were all amazing. And I said, "What is this?" And I couldn't believe what it was. And then so my friend said, "You go home and you put on the UHF stations, and you can get wrestling." And I was like, "Really?" So it was a Saturday afternoon. We got home, and I remember because we were doing a project, a history project. You had to make something historical. So, of course, I made a castle out of sugar cubes that went to Catholic school that I almost got thrown out of class because the next day after the display, thousands upon thousands of ants were crawling all over it, eating it. So that's how I remember this whole situation. That's what I associate with pro wrestling, was the ants eating my history project. So, but I went and we put on the channel, and I still remember the kid's name. His name was John Palmisano. It was in the third or fourth grade, and third grade maybe. And I just remember seeing the first ever wrestling match in my life was Greg the Hammer Valentine in WWE versus Joe Turco. And Greg beat the crap out of him, put him in a figure four, and I said, "Wow, this is amazing." Who would think? Shoot back now to the early 90s, I'd be in the ring working against Greg, and then shoot to the freaking early millennium where I'd be driving with Greg up and down the East Coast, the West Coast, and other countries, going all over with the man. I mean, booked on tours together. You know what I'm saying? And shows all over the country and conventions and everything, and we just became friends. But the highlight of my wrestling career was watching. At that time, all we had was WWE, Worldwide Wrestling WWF, Worldwide Wrestling Federation. You had the big three managers, Captain Lou Albano, the Grand Wizard of Wrestling, and Classy Freddie Blassie. You also had Arnold Skolin, but he was a babyface manager, so you didn't see him that often. But I was introduced to Andre the Giant, and you remember all those names. She remembers because she grew up Pennsylvania, so she remembers watching all that stuff just as I did. We lived parallel lives, which is what's pretty funny. And so now you have guys like Andre the Giant, Killer Khan, who we just lost, God rest his soul, and of course you had Jimmy Snuka and Don Morocco and Sergeant Slaughter. All of these people would become friends and peers of mine, good friends, and I've worked with a lot of them. But I'm now you shoot back to 1992. I'm walking into a bar. 1992. I'm walking into a bar. Jimmy Snuka's. Well, I'm walking out of the bar with throwing out a patron. I was bouncing and bar backing at the time, and I was throwing a patron out that was drunk. Guy was like 6'6". He was on my shoulders. And I threw him out. As I threw him out on the curb, because the guy wouldn't leave voluntarily, Jimmy Snuka and Jeff Miller, the Metal Maniac, were walking in, and my jaw dropped. And it was like, what the hell, you know? And Jimmy Snuka said, "I want to talk to you, brother." And then Jeff Miller pulled me aside, and he didn't really drink, but me and Jimmy wound up drinking shots of Malibu and Budweisers, and then. And Jeff said, "Listen, I got a guy who I'm going to bring you to." And him and Jimmy brought me to Gino Caruso and East Coast Pro Wrestling, and then it took some hemming and hawing because I like. There was probably a few years which I was delaying everything because I was carrying Jimmy's bags around when Jeff was back in Hawaii or Jeff was out on tour doing other shows. I was carrying Jimmy Snuka's bags around and not really learning how to wrestle, but learning the ins and outs of the business on another spectrum until finally I had my first pro match, unsanctioned, was against Jimmy because somebody didn't show up, and that was up in Massachusetts. And then my first real match was against Gino Caruso, Mr. Italy for East Coast Pro Wrestling, because Gino trained me, and Lake Hiawatha, along with the late Terry Manton, who was one of the executioners after Kowalski and Studd gave up the gimmick. He was one of the second generation executioners. Right. And Jerry Fazio, Rocky Jones, who just passed away, he wrestled in Portland and the WWF as Mike Masters. All those guys, along with Nikolai Volkov, and those guys broke me in. You know, so I mean, they broke me into the business, and Jeff Miller, the Maniac, gave me my first bump. Jimmy got behind me on all fours, and Jeff hit me with a clothesline. And it was hysterical because he had a cigarette in his one hand and an ice pop in his clothesline hand, and clotheslined me right over Jimmy Snuka, and I took my first bump. And I just remember Jeff going, "Hey, brother, you know you took your first wrestling bump, brother." Daddy. And then Jimmy looked at me, and Jimmy goes, "Not bad. A little stiff, but not bad. Lovely, brother." It was funny stuff.
Awesome.
And it just went on from there. And, you know, I mean, the first few years I wasn't wrestling as much because I was also working as an investment banker and for Hibbert Brown. And, I had to transition and get out of that. And then eventually, I got full time on the road. Broke into the business, and I mean, look, it's been mostly indies, man. It's been really an indie career, I mean, I worked for all the major companies, but it was not in some capacity or another dark, trying to do dark matches and trying to get a contract and everything. But at the time I was they always said you're either too small, too big, too fat, too thin, it was always something, shave your head, cut your hair, bleach it blonde, always something,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nick.
Oh no, I was listening to your story. So you got to. So before I'm going to ask this question, like I asked everybody else. If you can take wrestling entertainment out of your career, what would you think you'd be doing today if it wasn't for this? What would be an alternative job?
I would probably have still been an investment banker. I
Yeah.
would have probably still been. I probably would have been pushing a pencil and doing something that I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think. I think wrestling gave me an opportunity to spread my wings and let the real wild man out, the crazy bastard out. I mean, look, I always wanted to be a rock star. I played in a lot of bands, sang in a lot of metal bands in the 80s and stuff, and I mean, it was all well and fun, but I mean, really, I mean, chance to becoming a rock star, my chance of becoming an NFL player were better than becoming a rock star.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so
Well,
fucking hard.
you said you only did the indie scenes mostly, but there's no shame in that because obviously you had a pretty good career that got you to meet some amazing people, work with some amazing talent. So
Yeah, I mean, look, it's I've worked all over the world. I mean, I've been on
exactly.
5 continents with Kevin Sullivan,
Right.
and 4 with the Barbarian. I mean, I've been everywhere with these guys. I mean, I've met some of my best friends in the business, the Nasty Boys, Knobs and Seth. 2
Yeah,
of my best friends that I love dearly. We bust each other to high heaven. But 2 of my best friends. I mean, Greg the Hammer Valentine. And look, we had our differences in recent years, but I'll always love Greg. Because Greg taught me.
yeah.
Greg taught me how to make money. Greg taught me how to make money. Kevin Sullivan taught me how to work and do everything in the business. Jimmy Snuka brought me into the business. So, I mean, it's just Nikolai Volkov was my first real tag team partner
Yeah.
worth any salt. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he was out
Yeah.
there. I mean, I took all the bumps. People can say, oh, Nikolai never bumped. Well, I did all the bumping back then. Boris Sukov was gone, and I'd wrestle with him and John Krasuski, who was managing us as Nikita Brezhnikov. So I managed to see the world, I
Exactly.
did a lot. I mean, Barbarian took me on international tours. Kevin Sullivan took me on international tours. Um,
I
I mean,
like Kevin. Kevin's good people's.
yeah,
So,
he's one of my best friends.
Now, if I
yeah.
had a chance to meet, as growing up as a kid, watching Kevin Sullivan manage, he was probably I'd say my favorite manager to watch.
We'll
Yeah,
probably
Kevin
get him on the
Sullivan.
show.
Listen, Kevin was a better manager, better wrestler than he was a manager. He changed the face of wrestling. I don't care what
Yeah.
other people say.
Right.
Guys like Hulk Hogan broadened the business to where it's never been before. I mean, Hulkster is probably Hulk and Flair are the 2 goats of all time, the greatest of all
Yeah.
times.
Do you watch
I
the
mean,
current project?
not really. Honestly, I don't. I really don't. Occasionally, I'll flip through AEW when it's on. Occasionally, I'll put on NXT, but I have no interest in it.
Yeah, I tell the story all the time. I live in the Panhandle of Florida, and there's an indie promotion up here, XIW, with Adrian Whisper and Jackson Slade, Damian Wayne, all those guys that are big in the indies. I watched their show, man, and it got me hooked back into wrestling because, like you said, the stuff today is, I don't know.
Damian Wayne is one of the unspoken indie legends in the business. Damian Wayne is right up there with guys like the Metal Maniac and guys like oh my God, I can go on and on, but Damian Wayne is, to me, he's the guy's got a total package. Still to this day, he can really do it all. He's just a great worker and he's a great individual. I really like Damian.
Good friends of mine, really
So,
good friends. So I'm going to touch briefly on something before we go back into wrestling. Well, you were an actor on one of my favorite TV shows, Gotham. I loved that show when it came out. So can you talk to me about what part you played in the show Gotham?
I played one of the biker demons, Gotham Demons, and
Okay.
I was the guy. My most famous thing, everybody always asked me about being one of the biker demons, was how was it? What was it like when you put that guy's face under that spinning out tire and turned it to mush? Honestly, the tire was revving. We had the engine revving. I brought the guy's face up, never went to the tire. The blood splattered and all that gore that flew out of the freaking with the kickback on that thing was just all CGI added in, And it's funny because, the guys that were in that were also scheduled to appear in Daredevil with me in the Daredevil series, but I don't know what happened. They rewrote the whole script, so I don't know if the same cast is going to be in it. But I know that I'm scheduled to be in it. I'm
Really?
already cast in it, so we'll see what happens from there.
Awesome.
sweet.
Awesome. And
And you've done
also
a few
our
commercials
guest,
too, right?
I
yeah.
had a lot of commercials, man. I did
Yeah.
a Bud Light commercial. I did a Wrigley's commercial. I did a Doritos commercial, a Skittles commercial, Colchris Pharmaceutical commercial, and print ads for Skittles and Colchris Pharmaceuticals. I did a mattress firm commercial. I did what else did I do? Oh shit, God, I did so many TV appearances. Extra stuff on Law and Order. Uh, God, I can think of what else did I do.
I watch Law and Order a lot, so I've seen you on there a few
Homicide,
times.
Homicide, Life in the City. I did on the old series Homicide in the '90s. I did that. It just, but the one that really, I was about to retire in 2008 from wrestling. I gave up. WCW was now and ECW were gone, and it was just WWE, and it was like, where am I going to go? Indies were not really drawing like they used to, and I was like, fuck this. My knee was bad. I blew my knee out in the ring, and I was like, fuck it. Then I did the wrestling. All of a sudden, everybody, like somebody, a certain wife of a wrestler, of a washed-up wrestler, um, she said, "Oh, he calls himself the star of the wrestler, but he wasn't. He's not. He's a loser." Well, let me tell you something. Um, It's a work. Everybody knows I was in the movie. I had speaking roles in it. I used it to platform my career. If you don't like it, hell, too bad. What has your husband done lately? So I'm not going to say nothing, but there's she should maybe figure out what that skin cancerous looking face of hers should freaking go do. Maybe she needs some more Botox in her face. But anyway, I'm not going to mention any names, but you can put two and two together. So.
On that note, if you had to end in wrestling today, will you still go back into acting? You think that's something you pursue a little bit more?
I'd rather act than wrestle. I mean, I
Yeah.
love wrestling. I love the companies that I work for. I mean, I'm working for some awesome fucking people right now. I love working with Sean Hardy and 1CW in Delaware. I love working for American Coliseum Wrestling out of upstate New York. I love working for East Coast Pro Wrestling. They say you can never go home. Well, I always go home. Because I wrestled for them a lot over the years, and I'll never stop working for them as long as I'm able to put on a good show and look good in my underwear. I love working for CCW, Coastal Championship Wrestling, and I love working for Coastal Championship Wrestling, and one of my favorite companies out there. And I mean, of course, would I love to work for the NWA? Everybody says I'm a perfect fit. I'd love to work for the National Wrestling Alliance. I worked for them in the past. I was one of the co-owners of one of the franchises, NWA Big Apple, when Bruce Tharpe held the company. I'd love to work for Billy Corgan. I made no bones about that. I mean, I'm probably in the best shape I've been in years. I mean, still strong as a freaking ox, and can still do shit. The fact that you know, I'm a little up there in age, it doesn't mean that I can't work or that I can't perform, and I can still beat the fuck out of most fucking people on the planet.
100%. I saw you at CWF over in about a year ago when you and
Yep.
Kevin Sullivan. Yeah,
Yep.
looked good there, man. Very
I won
good.
the CWF heavyweight title, and
Yeah.
had a good time working there. I love working with Romeo Cavato.
Yeah.
The Cuban Heist. I'm a great guy. I love working with Cuban Assassin. Fidel Sierra is one of my best friends in the business. Shout out to him. He was just on your show. Him and his
Yeah.
wife Paula. And
You gotta
I
do.
love.
You gotta do this Cuban. You do appreciation. You told me you can do Cuban.
Hey brother, it's me. It's the Cuban. Give me a call, you fucker. Where are you? Hey, I got by my side? I got Karen right next to me right now. She's kissing my left cheek while Paula's kissing my right.
You sound just like her.
That's
You sound just
impressive.
like her.
That's impressive.
It is funny because I had that same phone call message there a couple days ago.
he does stuff like that. I mean, he'll call
Yeah.
me up and look. I used to call up Nikolai and go, "Hey, how you doing? What are you doing? Where are you, Drew? What about it? You got to be a vegetarian. You got to stop drinking the meat. The meat is no good. No drink the milk. You drink milk. What other mammal drinks another mammal's milk? You can't do that. Milk not good for you." And there he goes. He's bitching about me for freaking smoking weed and drinking beer and doing shots and eating meat. And he goes ahead and dies of a fucking heart attack. I broke my heart, man. I thought
Uh-huh.
Nikolai would last forever. You know that? He was one of the
Yeah.
greatest guys on the planet. One of the best fucking souls on the planet was Nikolai Volkov.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So,
Exactly.
and then of course you had Jimmy Snooker. Jimmy was the best.
Yeah.
He was maligned over the years with that whole trial and everything. But do I think Jimmy did it? I don't know what happened, but I loved him. To me, he was like a father. And I always say I have three fathers in wrestling. Jimmy Snuka, I called him Pops because broke me into business. Greg the Hammer Valentine, I called him Pop because, Greg was like a dad to me. He helped me make money, showed me how to make money. And then I have Papa Smurf, which is Kevin Sullivan, who brought me around the world.
Yeah.
And so they were my three papas in wrestling. And
Very impressive.
would I change a minute of it? No, no. I mean, I just heard that witch that I spoke about just bashing Greg and his wife Julie for no reason. I mean, the shit that was coming out of that woman's mouth on another podcast was disgusting. How do you do that? How do you talk about people like that? I mean, all she's doing is just burying her husband deeper than he can already be. I mean, it's tasteless. But I'm not going to mention names, but she knows who she is, and I think you guys know too.
Yeah. Well, I have to say this much before you end your wrestling career and say goodbye to all of it. I got to get you in a knockout ring one time soon, at least once.
Well, let's do it. Let's do it. I'd love to do some stuff. I mean, look, I mean, I'm always ready to get in one of your rings and do anything. I mean, look, I wrestled for Paramus Catholic High School. I wrestled for St. Peter's University. I had a lot of fun. I wrestled for Fordham for one semester. So I mean, look, wrestling was always in my blood. I mean, I had my first wrestling match in the 7th grade. I mean, so I wrestled, Greco-Roman and freestyle for years. I mean, I became complacent, with my flexibility around the time of 2008 to 2012 or 13 because I put on a lot of weight at that time, and I was kind of out of it. I mean, at the knee replacement, the ACL replacement, an allograft put in, and I want to also thank Crowbar, Chris Ford, who was unbelievable. He rehabilitated me and got me back in the ring. He had a double knee replacement, and I should have done that. I got a knee replacement because he's flying all over the place like a maniac still, and me, I'm still working. I'm still there, still moving around. I move pretty good. When that bell rings, I go. But
I think we have something coming up in April, I think. So as to get a little closer, I'll be calling for sure.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Whatever you need me to do, So I mean, look,
buddy.
there's a lot, and you know what? I've cross-pollinated with a lot of people in the business. I mean, I'm really good friends with Dangerous Danny Davis. I love Dangerous Danny Davis with Dan the Beast Severn. Love talking to him every now and again. Guys like that. Fuck, I can't even begin to tell you. I mean, I worked a lot with Riddick Bowe and Andrew Galata when they were training how to wrestle. They were going to have a boxing match in Poland and one in New York at the Garden. I worked with them a lot. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a long career. Got in the ring with Riddick Bowe. Riddick Bowe went to throw the big punch at me, and I got away, and I threw this big guy called the Peacemaker. I threw him in, and he took the punch from Riddick Bowe. And better him than me. That's all I say.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of stuff. So I did a boxer versus wrestler. I did a lot with Riddick Bowe, and I had a lot of good. I did a lot of shit that other people would say, "Wow." I mean, you got some people that want to say, "Oh, it is what it is." He never really made it in the WWE, or he never really did it in WCW, or whatever. But you know what?
You had a good career, though.
Everyone has an opinion. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one,
You talk about your big matches and stuff like that. A lot of things you did, and in the Indies, you had what they still call one of the greatest cage matches against Mo Sexley for ECP. So can you talk about that?
At the time, it was really, really good. I mean, it was an old school cage, and we went the first 10 minutes in that cage. We didn't even touch the cage. We barely went off the ropes. And I took a German suplex off the top rope. I gave him a superplex. He superplexed me while I was on the top rope, hanging off trying to get out of the cage, crawl out. He superplexed me back in. Did the flare dump off the top rope. Gave him a fucking a superplex off the top of the cage, and then not off the top, but off the top rope while he was on the top of the cage. and it finished up with me doing the senton at 290 pounds, doing the senton off the top of the cage, him moving out of the way, and I did it through the table, and then he came off the top of the cage, hit me with a frog splash, and then the repeat offenders were dressed up like prisoners sweeping the floor, and they knocked out the referee, ran in the ring, dragged me out, and I won the match, which is great for the East Coast title, which is fun. But when I got in the back, I was a bloody mess, and I just remember Sergeant Slaughter walking over to me and saying to me, me and Mo Sexy, whose real name is Mario Baccara, who wrestles for Wrestle Pro. He lives in Florida now. One of the most talented and underrated and phenomenal human beings on the planet and wrestlers. Sergeant Slaughter walked up to us and said, guys, he goes, that was one of the best cage matches I've ever seen on the indies or anywhere. So, and there's footage of that out there on YouTube. There's also a lot of footage of me doing dives off the top of the steel cages, so.
I like Sergeant Slaughter, so he's good people.
Sarge is the best. Sarge,
yeah. You face a lot of big names as the ECPW champ. I mean, guys like Tito Santana, the Metal Maniac, Tony Atlas, Tess, Demolition, X, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Brutus, the Bar Review Kick, Crowbar, Johnny Thunder, Mo Sexy, Nikolai Volkov, and Superfly Slicka. Of those names, who was the toughest, and who was the one that you would never give a shit to wrestle again?
The one I would never want to wrestle again wasn't the toughest, but he was definitely I don't like to speak ill of the dead, but he was definitely an arrogant prick to me. Was Test. Did a couple of matches with him when he came back from his back surgery. When he got back, and very upset about being on the indies and not being in a WWE locker room. He was very nasty and very. I mean, look, he worked with me. We had a decent match, but it wasn't the communication, the arrogance and the nastiness was just there. On the other hand, the guy that I loved wrestling the most was definitely Crowbar, because Crowbar would make you, if you couldn't go, he'll make you go. He was great. The toughest guy I've ever been in the ring with, beyond a shadow of a doubt, was the Barbarian. Barb was definitely the toughest guy I ever worked. I worked him some of my earliest matches, some of my later matches, and just recently we tagged in Georgia for Paul Lee's company, for Nature Boy Paul Lee's company, in June, and me and Barb literally almost started a riot in the place. So
Wow.
as two heels, we worked against Mims from the NWA and a local guy, and it was a great time out there. So, and I got to tell you a funny story. Just did a show for a company up in Pennsylvania for promoter Jack Molson and Grey Wolf. The two of them did a show up there, and we're wrestling over there, and Karen is my manager. Miss Karen, she turns around and steals this old lady's cane and goes to hit my opponent with him while we're fighting outside the ring. She steals the old lady's cane while he turns around, grabs the cane, pulls it from her. So sitting next to the old lady at that point was a middle-aged guy with one leg. Well, I pulled his fucking prosthetic leg off and I clubbed the guy from behind. Man, I tell you, we got the hugest pop of the night. I mean, that was a lot of fun. That was I think that was one of my last matches for 2023, and it was a good time, dude. It was just a lot of fun. Giving major kudos. The other company I love working for right now is Battlefield Professional Wrestling. We are Battlefield out of for Alpha, the Wild Samoan, and he has his Battlefield Training Academy up there and everything. And kudos to Alpha, because Alpha is a phenomenal guy to work for, and Alpha is one of my best friends. I worked for his dad years ago for WXW when I was up in Hazleton, and I mean, great company to work for, man. I mean, there's just so many companies to work for. World Pro Wrestling out of the UK. I love working for Matt Jarrett's company. Another great friend of mine. I love Matt. He still calls me when he's got questions about talent and everything like that. And we're going to be doing something, I think, in September. We're going to be hitting back to the UK, and so God willing, and health and everything, and so I mean, it's just it's really cool working for a lot of different companies out there. I mean, it was fun working with the little run I had in the SW. What is it? What was it called? SWE Fury out of Texas. Tom Lance's company was a lot of fun working for Tom Lance and Jason Jarrett. They had a good company. They had a big fucking houses in Texas in from 2021 to 2022, maybe late 2020, right after the pandemic ended. They had some huge ass houses and great talent like Moonshine Mantel, Charlie Haas, and God, it was just amazing shows. And Kevin Sullivan and Rod Price, James Beard, and they ran the locker rooms and stuff with Rodney Mack, and it was just a great deal. And they had some houses on that thing, and I had the first really storyline in that with Action Jackson. I don't know if you remember, guys. I remember from Action Jackson from Texas and everything, and I broke his arm. Did the old Wahoo thing where instead of I broke Wahoo's leg, or like Greg broke Jay Strongbow's leg and Wahoo's leg, I broke Action Jackson's arm. So it was a really good thing. And they had pay-per-views going on. It was just a good time. A lot of streaming. So that was really, really good company to work for while it lasted. So, and
Yeah, I know
Tom is running now a really great company called UWW Ultimate Women's Wrestling, and he's making waves with that. And I want to give them a shout out too, and my buddy Craig, who's involved in that also. So great job, guys.
Yeah. I know Battlefield just came down here to Mineola with WXW just recently, a couple months ago.
Yes.
So that was pretty cool to see those guys come down. Amazing talent, big guys, huge guys out there. So I don't know what they're feeding them up there, but damn,
I got to work with Gene Snitsky on the show, the first show that they came back. It's at the school up there, and it was a good time working with Gene. I love working with Gene. Gene's just a big monster of a guy, and really just a big, good-hearted man, and phenomenal physique still at his age, at 54 or whatever he is, so 55.
Yeah. But you said you worked with Tony Atlas at one time too, right?
I work with Tony fucking probably more than anybody out there right now. I work with Tony. We did everything with the arm wrestling gimmick, the test of strengths, the freaking the tug of war. So we did everything. Me and Tony did it. And
Tony's been in a knockout.
Tony loves it. So
Tony's been at a knockout a few times, actually, talking to him. He's a good, well, don't talk politics with him. That's for sure.
No, Tony's good. Tony's good.
You learn that. But no, he's a really nice guy. He's a really nice guy. He's been at our show a few times. So
Tony's great. Tony, he cracks me up. Well, Drew, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
So have you ran into Francisco Chiazza?
Frankie. Oh my God.
Man,
I had some great ring wars with him. False count anywhere in the building matches. I mean, Frankie was a great guy. He was married to Stormy Lee at the time. I mean, the two of them. I mean, fuck, man, that broke my heart. Too young. Frankie.
I never got a chance to meet him. I heard a lot of great things about him, but I never got a chance to actually meet him in person. And he's such a young age. I mean, well, I believe 48. I believe so young. Sad, very sad.
I remember he was on our podcast a few months prior, and I got his name wrong, and he let me know.
He'll let you know.
He let me know big time, and I'm like, okay. But at the end of the show, he's like, "I'm just messing with you, man."
Listen, I used to call him Frankie the Shih Tzu. And he used to so fucking pissed at me. I'd be doing it. He'd throw the whole angle, kicking the ropes and everything, angry at me while cutting the promo.
Yeah.
Good guy, man. Good guy. God
bless him. Yeah, man.
Condolences to his family, fans.
Absolutely. So, do you have any funny, cool rib stories or car ride stories that you can share?
Oh my God.
We only got 30 minutes left, so
ones that won't incriminate me. One of the guys from the movie The Wrestler who was in it with me, Paul Enormous, who is one of East Coast Pro Wrestling student, and I took him on the road with me a lot. Paul Enormous, Paul Fuchs was his real name, and he was in the movie with me. And a lot of the promo pictures, my scenes, he was in there with me. He didn't have speaking lines, but he was in there with me on everything. And good friend of mine, great guy. We're wrestling one time, body like a Greek god. He actually looked like a young Batista, and was around that same time as Batista too. Well, I'm wrestling him in somewhere in Pennsylvania or New York, and I hit his boots. So he's wrestling the sneakers, and I'm like, "You son of a bitch! What'd you do? Forget your fucking boots?" So I'm beating the shit out of him. I'm doing the whole spot with him. Me and him would always do. I would say, Lex Luger versus Flair, or Lex Luger versus Road Warrior Hawk. I'd get it, back him in the corner, chop, chop, chop. Turn around, I'd showboat a little, he'll turn around, flex at me, clothesline, press slam, boom, roll out of the ring, pull him out, and by his ankles, just start hitting him with chairs and everything else I could do because he was so fucking big, So while we did that spot, so this time I pull him and he takes the bump. Instead of going out of the ring, I leave him there. I go when I'm chopping him, I'm saying, "Where are your fucking boots, you asshole?" So he turns around, he flexes at me, hits me with the clothesline, hits me with the second clothesline, picks me up, gives me a big Beal, picks me up, goes to press me. I cut him off, grab him by the ankle, pull him out of the ring, and when he takes the bump and he's just like halfway under the ropes, I slam his leg on the apron, the back of his knee on the apron, and I say, "Look up, straight up." He looks up and he goes, "You suck." I had the ring crew nail his boots 50 feet up in the ceiling with 4-inch nails. So that was a good one. That was one of the other one was Jeff Miller, the Metal Maniac. This is a good one. I've done this one on a number of people, but Jeff was the first one I would ever see at the end of his match come in and put a hair dryer on cold setting and blow dry himself. So I'd waited till he came in and did that, and he gets in and sets up his hair dryer, and it's plugged in. He blew his hair before it, so he expected everything to be okay. He goes ahead, takes his hair dryer, turns it up, aims it at his face, turns it on. I filled it up with baby powder. He looked like Oscar the front. One of the funny. Those are the funny ribs. I mean, there are other ones that are a little more obscene and a little less tasteful, and but there were a lot. I've done a lot over the years. Notoriously liking the ribs.
All right, so
Well,
I got to think twice about bringing you to a knockout ring then. So,
yeah.
I
So
don't want to be on the next broadcast.
Nick's favorite part of the show is kids' questions. So
Yeah.
I work with 8 foster kids, so we sat around the dinner table today, and they came up with some questions, and so I want to ask these questions.
Sure.
Favorite food?
Sushi.
Pineapple.
No. My favorite food is anything my love makes these days. She made homemade guacamole tonight.
Nice.
From locally grown avocados, onions, and cilantro, and limes that were phenomenal. The day before yesterday, she made meatballs with sauce, which was phenomenal. Homemade meatballs with sauce. So from home grass-fed beef around here, right? Corn-fed beef around here in Costa Rica, actually. So very good. Didn't taste like beef in the States, but like South American beef, but it was very good. She made them so delicious. And the best thing she did was, I thought I made a good chicken. She baked the chicken with vegetables on and everything, but it was just phenomenal. It fell off the bone, slow cooked and everything, baked. But yeah, my favorite food, like to go out and eat and anything like that, is sushi. I'll take sushi over anything.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Do you know what? If you would have asked me up until, this is a good question. Karen will answer this one for me.
What's that?
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Pineapple does belong on pizza.
No, Karen, I liked you. Why? Why?
I got him back on it after coming here.
I still like you. Karen. I don't care what Nick says.
So listen, so it was funny because our friends over here, they ordered some pies. We sat around on the table eating dinner, talking, and everything outside here, and they ordered a couple of pizzas to go. Her friend orders a margarita pizza, 2 margarita pizzas, and 2 pineapple pizzas, 2 Hawaiian pizzas. I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'm going to give it a try. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Then the next night, we went out with friends of hers, Dan and Carly, went to a place called a real upscale place called Hemingway's here in Costa Rica, and they ordered a pineapple pizza, and I had that, and it was delicious. So I'm not going to knock it, but when you ask me this, do pineapples belong on pizza? No, I don't think they do. But it was good. I tried it, but no, to me, no.
No.
It's like I'm gonna hit you with a question, okay?
Okay.
I'm gonna hit you guys with a question. Is it called sauce or gravy?
Gravy.
You call it tomato sauce, or you call it tomato gravy.
Tomato
I have
sauce.
collard gravy.
What the hell is tomato gravy? What the
It's
hell?
tomato sauce,
It's
man.
tomato sauce. I mean,
My
tomato
grandmother,
sauce.
see, my mom down here calls it gravy. My grandmother's Italian; she calls it sauce. So I always got
There you
both.
That's
So,
a big one. It's a big one. It's like up here in Jersey, they have what is it, Taylor
Yeah.
ham or is it pork roll? So we always call it Taylor ham. It's Taylor ham in Jersey. You know,
Yeah.
everywhere else is pork roll or pressed ham.
nice.
There you go.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Scott.
Favorite TV show.
The Outer Limits,
Okay.
the
Favorite
original
movie.
Outer Limits,
Favorite movie.
The Exorcist.
Oh, wow, that's freaky.
Favorite what?
Favorite car.
1976 Corvette Stingray is tied with the 1977 Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am, both of which I did own at one point.
Oh, wow.
Nick hasn't heard these ones. Favorite potato chip.
Pringles.
Okay.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but I'm gonna ask this. What do you do when you get out of bed?
Take a leak.
Okay. Favorite
I've been
sports
wanting-
team.
Favorite sports team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kansas City Chiefs, baby.
I hope they beat the Ravens. I really do.
You know, listen, I can't stand the Baltimore Ravens. Actually, honestly, my favorite baseball team are the New York Yankees. My favorite football team is the New York Giants. Right now, I think and a lot of people hate him, and I don't like him either, but Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, I don't think there's anybody better right now and I think he's going to be the new Tom Brady, is going to be Patrick Mahomes. And I think replacing Gronk is definitely going to be Kelsey.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. And what's your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers?
Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Well, Mount Rushmore of wrestling. Wow. Well, that's tough. If I go with the Attitude Era of wrestling, it will definitely be Steve Austin, The Rock. From the Attitude Era to now, Steve Austin, The Rock, John Cena, definitely Roman Reigns, and Brock Lesnar. Is that good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got two more.
No. Wait a minute. I got to throw in The Undertaker there, too.
Okay.
Undertaker also. Now, if you ask me who my Mount Rushmore of wrestling is, my own personal Mount Rushmore of wrestling, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Terry Funk, Don Morocco, and Jimmy Snuka.
Love that.
Very good call.
That's mine.
That's
Those are the ones that I grew up and cut my teeth watching. You know, I mean, I think the greatest of all time, as far as superstar Billy Graham. So I really can't. I can't just round it off. Superstar too, and everybody will say Dusty Rhodes. I love Dusty. I think he's not in my top 5 or 6. I think the real Rock, greatest Rock of all time, and I love Dwayne Johnson. I think he's awesome, and I think Don Morocco was years above his time. Promos, big guy, could move, could do anything. I mean, I'm friends with Don. Speak to him occasionally on Facebook. Went for sushi with him a few years back, right before COVID. Great guy, love him. Metal Maniac and Jimmy Snuka introduced him to me. Maniac the first time, Jimmy Snuka 2 times after. And got to have dinner at his house in Sunset Beach, thanks to Gino Caruso and Jeff Miller when we did a tour of Hawaii in the 90s. Don was one of the best. So a lot of people say, why do you like Don Morocco? Don Morocco, one of the greatest intercontinental champions of all time. You know, one of my favorite matches of all time. I mean, they're not necessarily on my Mount Rushmore. Everybody says Steamboat against Savage, Flair against Steamboat, Shawn Michaels against The Undertaker. Well, one of my favorite matches was Sergeant Slaughter versus Pat Patterson in that street fight. That was amazing. You know, Jimmy Snuka, Don Morocco, steel cage. Jimmy Snuka, Bob Backlund, steel cage.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, Superstar Billy Graham, Dusty Rhodes, bull rope match. Superstar Billy Graham, had phenomenal matches, man. I mean, he wasn't the greatest worker, but one of the greatest physiques, one of the greatest presence, and he was believable. The
Yeah.
man was believable. So
I have two more.
Harley Race
Harley Race
is on my Mount Rushmore. I have a double Mount Rushmore. Harley Race. Harley. I can't. God forgive me. Harley. Oh my God. Harley Race. Harley Race. Oh fuck.
I got two more.
Two more wrestlers. Harley Race.
No. I got two more questions. Two more
questions.
This is one from me when I was around the table. I asked, so, if you had one match, last match, who would it be against?
My last match? Wow. Shit. I would either have it against Alpha Jr., Crowbar. I'd love to work Crowbar one more time. God, who else? I don't know. I'd love to work against Romeo again. I mean, great worker. I love working against him. Romeo is a great guy too. Romeo Cavato. So,
You want to make that happen?
Out of the indie guys. I mean the guys that are right on the circuit still active. I mean they're all great. I mean anybody. I mean look, I just had some really good matches, string of really good matches with a bunch of different young guys who are coming up in the business, and I love working the younger guys. You know what I'm saying? I teach them how to slow down. You know.
Yeah.
Last question of the kids' question is, who is the greatest WCW champion ever?
Greatest WCW champion ever, Ric Flair.
You're gonna be mad. David Arquette.
Ha! David's a friend of mine. David's a great guy. David's a great friend. He's a good guy. So
I have one more second question, one more topic that I want to talk about before I give you the mic to close the show for us. I'm super excited about this. I work a lot with Nick on KnockOut down in Florida, but there's one promotion I work with from St. Louis, and that's Herb Simmons SICW. I've been wanting to go out to Cauliflower Alley Club in Vegas this year. Is that something that you would suggest to go to?
Well, let me tell you something. Herb Simmons, SICW, is the oldest professional wrestling company in the United States. All right? Probably in the Northern Hemisphere. Herb Simmons is a class act, one of the greatest promoters you'll ever work for. He did a lot of work with Larry Matisic and Bruiser Brody. And he treats the fans and the wrestlers. He doesn't insult the fans' intelligence. He treats the fans, the wrestlers, with respect and dignity. His company is one of the finest companies I've ever worked for. I just been in a feud with Flash Flanagan up at his company. Kevin Sullivan and we made headlines when we tried to set Flash Flanagan on fire with lighter fluid. So he's got some, and then we did a blow off match in the cage, and I love working for Herb. And as far as coming to the Cauliflower Alley, yes, I really think you need to. I wasn't able to do it this year because of situations beyond my control, and financial issues at the time. But yeah, the Cauliflower Alley is one of the best companies out there for best nonprofit companies that helps wrestlers, and there is nobody better and kinder than Darla Staggs, Brian Blair, and everybody else from the company. I mean, that run the company, all the board. They are some of the nicest people and some of the kindest people, and they have helped so many. And God bless the CAC. And just it's an amazing company. And if you're not a member, become a member. Join now, because they help wrestlers that have difficulties, problems, financial problems, medical bills, and stuff like that. Because not all of us have insurance, not all of us have a pension, and not all of us have the ability to sometimes carry on beyond wrestling. And they make that possible.
Yeah.
And I mean, I asked that question because I'm just a podcast creator, so I just to know, do you feel that I would fit in there to just go and experience that? I guess. Are you a
wrestling fan? True.
Absolutely.
And true.
Yes.
Absolutely. Then you'll fit in.
Okay,
They don't
so,
discriminate. They don't discriminate.
all right. So
They
my
don't
So
next
Brian,
question.
Brian Blair is a really nice guy. I know him personally. He's a really good
I
guy.
love Brian. I love Brian dearly.
One of my last statement about the Cauliflower Alley Club and SICW. I have an opportunity tomorrow night, and if you have anything you can tell me about this, Herb called me up after a podcast. He said, "Hey, you guys are doing a great job over at your podcast. I want to give you the first opportunity. Do you want to interview Barbara Goodish?"
Awesome. She's amazing.
Okay. She's on the show tomorrow night.
Barbara is one of the sweetest people we know, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Barbara is one of the sweetest ladies we know. I love Barbara. I call her Mama. I call her Mama because I mean she's always looked after me. Also, Lori McGee, also another woman who's been involved in the wrestling business. She has always looked after my best interests. You know, Darla Staggs, and of course, you know, you can't go anywhere without saying, you know, Pamela Morrison, JJ's daughter, sweetheart. You know, I mean, hell, I mean, it's just, and Karen McDaniel, Wahoo's widow, you know, wonderful women, and really have always been very kind to me. You know, I was one of the younger guys growing up, and they always treated me good. You know, I mean, and Barbara is a sweetheart, and she has some stories to tell. You know,
I have a guy in the chat, Tyler Cooley. The very first time I got to see him and meet Andrew Anderson was when he faced Flash Flanagan in Steel Cage. So,
Tyler, what's up, buddy?
Yeah. He's a big fan of the podcast. The Steel Cage match against Flanagan happened at SICW Belfair Fairgrounds. Definitely one of the greatest rivalries in SICW, and he's a proud member of the. So thank you, Tyler, for coming on the show. I want to talk about fans. So, how important are the fans to you, your merch table, and everything else in the business?
I wouldn't be here without fans. I wouldn't be here without wrestling fans. You know, I wouldn't be, and especially for an indie guy, fans have made me who I am. You know, I mean, people say, "Oh, you know, you're a hustler and everything." Yeah, I do hustle. I do. I try to get things done. You know, I try to get things done. You know, and it's hard to make money when you got guys like legends like Tony Atlas and Warlord Barbarian, and you know, and selling their merchandise. Next year, a lot of baby boomers know them, and know, a lot of the Generation X people know them, but they don't only see the guys that haven't been on TV regularly. So, and weren't as mainstream at the time as the bigger names were, you know. So yeah, the fans are important, and the fans have always been really good to me.
And brotherhood and paying it back. What's that like for you?
Oh, unbelievable. I mean, you got, you know, the brotherhood of being in the back is just great. I mean, you look after each other. I mean, there's lines you don't cross, which, like I told you, a certain wrestler's wife crossed recently with everybody, bad mouthing certain people. I'm not going to go into it, but I will in depth at another time. But you don't cross certain lines. You don't bash people. I mean, it's like this woman just wants publicity, you know, and it's just, you know, you look after each other. You know what I'm saying? You know.
Yeah.
But
what's one advice you can give to this new age wrestling, these younger guys today?
Slow the fuck down and grab a hold.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, would you say that it's wise for those younger guys to, you said slow down, but shut up and listen to the guys in the back?
Yes.
Always that. I mean, if you listen to Cuban Assassin, Fidel Sierra said it all. You know, I mean, people say, "Oh, you guys are old. You guys are done, can't do." You know, I admit that I can't do half the shit that these younger guys do now. In my prime, I couldn't do half the shit, but I wouldn't want to do it because there was no need for me to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so they could say, "Oh, he's just some old grizzled old piece of shit." Okay, maybe I am. You know, but I'm one of the pieces of shit that floated to the top and stayed there, and it's still working.
Exactly.
You know. Well, they're getting hot dogs and handshakes. I still make sure I get a payday.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, Nick, you got anything else?
No, I just feed off of that. You don't have to be all flippy flops, off top ropes all the time. You can have a good match, just keeping it in the center of the ring and taking barely any bumps, and you can tell the story right there. And that's what a lot of these younger guys just don't get that.
That's why guys like Greg and Greg the Hammer, Brian Blair, Barbarian is still in the ring, Warlord, and guys like that have lasted. They've lasted the test of time. They've wrestled the new generation. Sergeant Slaughter, how many times did he work Triple H? How many times did he work a Brock Lesnar and other people like that? And Shawn Michaels? Because Sarge lasted. Sarge knew how to work. He knew how to take care of his body. Take care of your bodies, man. How many suicide dives you going to see in a match? After a while, it becomes very, very passe. Everybody does it.
Exactly.
One thing I think that's missing from today's business a lot. I mean, there's still storylines in today's business, but they're not like they were back in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. It's not. So, what's your take on how important a storyline is in the business?
It's storylines. Storylines create believability, and pro wrestling is the suspension of belief. And once you lose that credibility, and you have some really bad acting thrown in, and I mean, it's just horrible. It's some of the stuff is terrible. Some of the stuff is phenomenal. Like, I'm a big fan of Damian Priest. I helped break him in the business. I had a lot of his early matches with him. Really great guy. Louis is a really great guy. I mean, he's phenomenal. I always knew he'd be somebody. He used to say at the time when he was trying to get matches with WWE, he'd say, "Oh, you think I'm too old?" I said, "No, you're not too old. You're talented." And look at him now. Look at him now. He's on top of the world. So Karen is going to bed. So
good night, Karen.
Good night, Karen.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So look at that. Hold on a second. Look at that. Look at that woman right there. Look at that. Drop dead gorgeous.
You're going to get us both in trouble. We're married. No.
No, it's awesome that your wife is part of your I'm sorry, fiance is part of your everything.
Yeah,
like
she's the best thing that ever happened to me, man.
That's awesome. So,
I mean, I'm going through some shit with a bad divorce. Haven't really seen my kids in a while. I mean, kids are angry at me and everything, and there's been a lot of shit going on and a lot of bullshit thrown at me left and right. And someday I'll address it, but right now I'm just leaving it be. Say what you want about me. You know what I'm saying? I still love my kids and everything, and I've done all I can, and I'm doing all I can to make everything
That's all you
right.
can do.
I had I wasn't a saint, as far as my crazy lifestyle and everything. I mean, I was a poster boy, probably the poster boy for infidelity, but I did a lot of bad shit, stupid shit, but I love my kids. I love my daughters tremendously, and I miss them. And some people will make comments about this because they're going to see it, but you know what? It is what it is. I don't talk about it that much, but I mentioned it in your podcast. How's that?
absolutely.
There you go. Well, it will all pay out in the long run for sure.
So we're gonna close the show. We have like 2 minutes. Is there anything you'd like to share with the fans about upcoming shows that you're going to be in, where they can find you on social media, and then finally, any shots needed to be fired for your next opponent?
Let's see. I have March 2nd and Houston, Delaware for 1CW at the Houston, Delaware Volunteer Fire Department. I have in Eastchester, New York for East Coast Pro Wrestling. Go to ECPW, the number one.com, ECPW1.com for March 16th in Eastchester, New York. And then I also have on February 17th, I have the New England Fan Fest in Warwick, Rhode Island. I'll be there with Kevin Sullivan. Karen will be signing with me. Sergeant Slaughter will be there. Trying to think who else. Tony Atlas, Dennis Rodman, Matt Riddle, a lot of people. Teddy Long. And then what else do I have from there? I have February 25th in Pennsylvania for AFA Battlefield Professional Wrestling.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think, what else do I have? I have a bunch of other stuff coming up. I just don't have it off the top of my head. You can get the Reinforcers brand of coffee. Go to JaniceCoffeeRoasters.com and look up the Reinforcer coffee, Reinforcer roast. And then you could also go to Cameo and request Andrew the Reinforcer Anderson, or Andrew Anderson, actor, wrestler, to bring you a cameo message to your house for either your birthday or to a loved one, a birthday wish, whatever. I'll cut a promo on you, whatever. I'll do it all. Getting a lot of those. Thank God for that. That's a lot of fun. And we have a lot of stuff coming up. And I'm in here for Costa Rica on business. And what is my business, guys?
Cigars.
Well, I love cigars, but I'm not in Costa Rica for cigars. I got my friend Matty Rock. I'm giving my buddy Matty Rock a plug with that. And my buddy Sanj Patel, who has his own brand of cigars in New Jersey, I'm giving them a plug with that. And but no, not cigars. What do I do for a living, guys?
Yeah,
He wrestled.
Thank you, Nick. So, what's the purpose of this podcast? God damn it! Come on, bro.
Yeah, man. Well, you talking about these gators earlier down there? I don't be wrestling over them gators.
Okay, listen. When you're swimming in the ocean, and there's about maybe, I'd say about 40 foot of beach behind you, up a little like up a little hill, and back on that hill is an estuary. And the water trickles down from the estuary into the ocean. And you look into that estuary and you see the backs of freaking crocodiles, or the crocodile snout sticking up out of the water. And you go in that water and you think yourself, and look, the water's crystal clear here in Costa Rica, but something could come out of the water, just pull you right into the surf, And that's at night. During the daytime, they're in the estuary because it's warm water. And they sit and sun themselves sometimes. And these crocodiles get up to 13 feet, 14, 15 feet.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen how big they get, but they're American crocodiles. They're in Central America. They're big-ass motherfuckers. They're a little more docile than like salties or Australian or Nile crocs. So, but they're still aggressive. If you're there, they're going to try to eat you. So I'm not too thrilled. I don't want to be the crocodile hunter and say, hey, look at that. Oh, crikey, look at that. It's a crocodile. Let me go tickle under its chin. Let me go tickle its fucking balls. I sound more like Arthur right now from the TV. Let me go tickle
you did.
Let me go tickle its fucking balls right now. Look at it. Look at it, love. Why don't I tickle its fucking testicles? Do crocodiles even have them? Well, let's find out.
So for voiceovers, please reach out to Anderson.
You want a fucking voiceover? You come here to New Jersey. You come to New Jersey, see my fucking Uncle Junior. He'll come and tell you, hey, we got the bada bing, bada boom, bada bang, bada boom. Yeah, you motherfuckers. Come on down. Come see the Reinforcer wrestle. If you don't, I'm going to come to your house. I'm going to cut your balls and shove them down your throat. How's that?
There you go.
Well, man, it's HugePop Wrestling Podcast. It's been a hell of a night with Andrew Anderson and Nick from KnockOut Entertainment. I can't thank you enough for coming on here, the Reinforcer, and sharing your stories. And I just love the connection I've made with Nick. And he's brought me guys like you and the legends that I always dreamed of to meet. So,
well, I'll connect you with some people in the next hour. I'll message me and I'll get you some numbers for your podcast.
All right.
But remember, you fucking owe me. I know where you live.
You do.
We got a lot of bodies buried out there in Florida.
I'll message you after the podcast, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Don't go anywhere. I'm going to say the closing. So, HugePop Wrestling Podcast. It's been another pleasure with the KnockOut. HugePop gets knocked out. We got a great KnockOut show tonight. I appreciate every one of you, Nick and Andrew Anderson. Great stuff. HugePop Wrestling Podcast. Tune in tomorrow night, same 8:00. To witness SICW Herb Simmons and Bruiser Brody's wife, Barbara Goodish. It's going to be a hell of a show. Just check us out. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook. Hit the like and subscribe button. And guys, it's been a pleasure, and I really, really, really love y'all.
All my dogs, make some noise up in this house. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the grind. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your head is knocked out. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the grind. 'Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out. Fight with Adrian Whisper is like a fight with the devil, because when he's dealing with you, you cannot get on this level. Fight with Adrian Whisper is like a fight with a king. It's like a fight with an army. They got the tanks and everything. He's leaving bruises and stitches, possibly leaving you crippled, cause when he sets up the table and sends you straight through the middle. 6 degree, beat that ass with a light bulb. Leave a piece of glass embedded in the back of your skull. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the ground, cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the ground, cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out.